The coterie prepares to leave, and everyone is, the mortals are not happy about not being able to rest, you know, because they've been traveling all day and now they must travel all night to get to Bistritz. Not happy at all. But luckily, your command of everyone is sufficient, Henrik, that nobody complains. At least not to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your squire comes to you and lets you know that, nobody's happy about having to travel all night after a day of travel, but everyone is fortified by food and a couple hours rest, and you think that everyone will be, relatively fine. A cask of ale also did indeed help their morale. Having something to drink, they expect to have a nice long rest should they get to Bistritz. So as it takes a couple hours, but everyone is bathed and clothed, and before long you're departing Napoca. So before we continue, and this is something I honestly should have asked earlier, but what as you travel by night, where is everyone in the caravan? Like, what is the, I guess, what's the marching order for everyone?
Henrik is on his war horse at the head of the procession. Now, he does have a scout that he sends ahead that brings back reports of what may be ahead. But other than the scout himself, he will lead the procession on his war horse.
All
right.
will be in a carriage with Lorraine and Sherazina.
All right, so which carriage are you in? Because there's like three in a line. Are you the one closest to Henrik, or are you the one in the back, or in the one in the middle?
It would be the front most of the carriages, I'd say.
Okay. So Sherazina, Milo, and Lorraine are in the carriage which is closest at the front. Where's Soren?
Soren would be in the middle carriage. That's where he usually sits and reads.
All right, Nikolai, which carriage do you think you've been staying in?
So during the day, Nikolai would be staying in the carriage in the back, but at night he's riding his horse as well. But he's going to be moving back and forth between the head of the caravan and the workers in the back, just keeping an eye on the procession. But most of the time, he would be spent at the head of the caravan, up with Henrik.
Alrighty then, and where is Ebba during the night?
During the night, she's not in any carriage. She's traveling with Varg on the sides of the roads.
Okay. So we've got in summary, we have Soren in the middle carriage, Milo in the front carriage, and Henrik and Nikolai, Milo, I should say, in the front carriage. Henrik and Nikolai riding up front, and Ebba kind of keeping off to the side of the road with the caravan. I've got that all right, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So with that, we're going to move into our next scene. As you are traveling into the mountains of Transylvania, and you find your way up into the Carpathians. It's a relatively uneventful journey up into, once you get past the Carpathian Plains and up into the mountain pass, the forest becomes exponentially thicker all around you. It's the looming forest itself seems to wrap around you almost, and the road suddenly becomes very small and almost feels insignificant compared to the raw wilderness which is around you. The Carpathian Mountains themselves loom in the distance like the bones of the world, shrouded with mist towards their peaks, like ancient and powerful gods that watch over you as you enter a land which is steeped in magic and ancient history. You're very profoundly aware that there is something magical, something dark about the land of Transylvania. You've never been anywhere quite like it. In fact, if any of you have the awareness talent, you might be able to sense a faint buzz of something dark and something old. But with that, we're going to enter into our next scene as you're traveling through the mountains.
Would I have to make a roll?
Do you have the awareness talent?
I do as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I have it as well.
Anybody with awareness, you don't necessarily have to make a roll. It's just something you instinctively feel as you go deeper into Transylvania. Because it's really all around you. You know, it's not any one thing you can pinpoint. It's like the land itself. So, as the caravan continues to pull through the mountains, the soldiers, they're on foot. The footmen, they have their heavy kite shields and their battle axes. You know, the men that were supplied to you are huscarls from the Holy Roman Empire, ill-tempered infantry with heavy battle axes and kite shields and wearing mail. There are, you know, of course, the vampires themselves, as well as the squire, Orlin, who is upon his horse, and the laborers sort of bring up the rear guard. I forgot to ask one thing. Where is the money being stored? All the levers that were supplied to you by Lord Jurgen.
If possible, we could have it evenly distributed amongst each of the carriages, so we don't have the money all in one spot.
Okay, that's possible. Does everyone agree with that? Is that what you would have wanted?
Not opposed.
Milo would be okay with that, yes.
Yep.
All right. So the trees tower around you, and there's a road that leads to Bistreets through the mountains into this, like I said, this vast woodland area. And as you travel through, take 1 second. Something. So sit there in anticipation for a moment. But actually, as I'm doing this, go ahead and describe your characters. Go around and kind of describe your characters as you're traveling through the Transylvanian mountains and looking around at this fantastic, you know, these vistas, this ancient forest and the mountains that loom in the distance.
Henrik will, of course, realize that if something were to go wrong upon this trip, now would be the time, especially the landscape that we are entering. So he's going to be on high alert, scanning the trees, things of that nature, and he's also going to make sure that the soldiers are on high alert as well. He's a little bit paranoid, waiting for something to leap out upon them at any moment. He will not feel safe until he is at least within sight of the city of Bistreets. So he's a little on edge right now as he scans the countryside or the landscape.
All right.
Milo would still be very thoughtful about the fact that he hadn't informed Henrik of what he learned back in the hamlet. But even though he doesn't feel the same amount of, doesn't feel it in the same way in the air as some of the others that has a bit better senses that he does. I mean, it's still obvious to him as well that this is a dangerous area, especially with what they have just found out in such a small, inconspicuous place. Even there's like, deep secrets, and now they're heading into this dark forest. So he's very thoughtful, and he doesn't speak much, but he's in the carriage with the two ladies, and just he's looking outside through the shutters, taking in the landscape.
Okay, and you mentioned you were on high alert, Henrik.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. I mean, just make a perception alertness roll. Difficulty 7. It's a little dark. You don't really have any light to see by.
Ebba is also, I wouldn't say high on alert, but she is pretty alert as she's traveling kind of the edge of the wood, following the carriages with Varg. Every once in a while, she would stop and kind of sniff the air and look about. And she's just kind of keeping a keen eye in the forest around them, keeping her senses keen on that.
Milo would also use heightened senses, but obviously his view is a bit impaired because he's looking from inside the carriage. But in order to best take in the landscape and the surroundings, he would be using heightened senses to increase his sight.
All right, and you're taking everything in, Milo?
Yeah, everything I can from inside the carriage, as I said.
Okay, make a perception alertness roll. Difficulty 8, just as you look around.
Right.
Actually, no, you have heightened senses, so due to your levels of aspects, that difficulty is actually going to be 5.
All right. So you said perception alertness?
Perception alertness, yep. Difficulty 5.
All right.
While he's rolling that, Nikolai has also been a bit more watchful than he normally would have been after coming into Transylvania, and that feeling, that buzz, has him on edge. And knowing that the town that they had left previously, the townspeople had most likely killed off the local lord. He's been watching for any signs of them following their group. And beings that he's been riding with Henrik, and Henrik's being on guard has kind of bled over into Nikolai. So he's kind of feeding off that paranoia himself a bit.
All right, so you're keeping an eye out. You're looking around.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead and roll your perception alertness, difficulty 7, unless you have aspects.
I do not.
All right, and as everyone is looking around, the camera is going to pan to where Varg and Ebba are walking alongside the caravan just off the side of the road.
They're keeping up with the pace of everyone else on the road. Every now and again stopping and kind of taking in what's going on around them, and looking in the direction of the road up ahead. And she would have her eyes of the beast kind of prone, looming in to the hedges of the forest, and making sure that there's no one that's following them or going to ambush them, etc.
All right. So as everyone's traveling along, we're going to touch in real quick on Soren before we move on with the scene. What Soren is doing.
Soren again was pressed with his books, but as they enter kind of this kind of terrifying kind of feel about the forest, he's long since put it down and is gazing out the windows of his carriage, kind of still pretty comfortable, but he is looking out the windows and not really on alert, just kind of being aware of the situation and where they're at.
All right, and as you're looking out the window, go ahead and roll your perception alertness, difficulty 7. Now, all of you are witness to the night, and it's very dark and cloaked all around you, and even though you're kind of on alert, you don't see anything as you're traveling along. And then, quite suddenly, an arrow streaks out of the darkness and strikes towards where Henrik sits upon his horse and hits him directly in the shoulder. Henrik, go ahead and roll your soak.
What is this?
You have armor on?
Yes, I do have armor on. Armor soak for my armor's 3.
Okay,
And
so
then
that'll
plus-
be your soak will be your stamina, your fortitude, plus your armor, and it hits you directly. I mean, this arrow just zips out of the darkness and strikes into you very, very hard.
Okay. Is that going to be public or private?
Always
There it is.
public, yeah, for damage
Okay.
and soak.
And what is the difficulty?
Always 6 for damage and soak.
So, what total of 4 successes?
All right, so you suddenly take 2 levels of lethal. And this is actually a strike that would have killed a lesser man. I mean, even a Cainite, it would have mortally wounded him. As this arrow suddenly zips out of the tree line and slams into your armor, Henrik. It punches right through your armor and buries into your body as you take 2 levels of lethal damage. And and your horse barely has time to react. You barely have time to realize what's happened before everyone hears the sound of as 3 more arrows suddenly streak out of the darkness, all of them headed towards Henrik. So I'm going to go ahead and make those rolls real quick.
Okay.
All right, roll your soak for that one. That's 6 successes.
All right. I actually rolled 1 less die for my last soak, but that's okay. I should have rolled 8 instead of 7. But
Okay, roll 1 more dice, just because every level matters.
5 successes.
All right, so you take another level of lethal. Go ahead and roll your 1 more dice for your last soak. Okay, so you've taken a total of 3 lethal as another arrow strikes you.
So that's another 3 lethal on top of what I just got?
I know you've taken 3 lethal so far overall.
Okay.
As another arrow strikes you, go ahead and roll your soak again. You completely soak that one. And roll your soak once more. Oh yeah, you completely soak that one. So actually 4 arrows slam into you suddenly without you even, having time to react. First arrow hits you, and then 3 more like hornets, moving like a blur, suddenly come out of nowhere, out of the darkness of the woods, and slam into you as you take total 3 lethal damage. As yes, you're quite injured by this. Go ahead and describe your response. Milo, you're directly nearby. You just saw him struck by 4 arrows. They're now sticking out of his body. Go ahead and describe both of you responding to that, and then we are going to roll initiative. We're going to get into this.
Wait, Milo's
And I
nearby,
can-
or I am?
I forgot. Milo was in the caravan. Yes, so it's actually Nikolai.
Okay.
Nikolai's nearby. So you would have seen this, Nikolai.
Yes. Hendrik, with a bloody roar, yanks forth his sword and yells at the top of his lungs, "Ambush!" He starts spinning my horse around, looking for the fiend that decided to try to take down him. Do I see him?
As you look around wildly, you see no one. How does Nikolai respond?
Could I tell the direction that the arrows came from?
Make a wits alertness roll real quick, difficulty 7. They were moving so fast and they just came out of the darkness. So you almost miss it, but you barely manage to see the general direction in which they're coming from. You have about 1 second to do something or say something before this pops off.
So I turn my horse in off to the west, draw my sword, and Lord Henrik, with me.
I look around and it's Nikolai that's out there, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Does Nikolai seem to know where the attacker's from? Is that what he's trying to show me?
So when I drew my sword, I pointed it basically the same direction that my horse's head is now pointed.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I would just want
he seems to have spotted something.
All right. I nod my head and I fall in beside him.
So at that moment, a sudden cry from both sides of the road raises up as men hidden in the bush from both sides rush you out of the darkness as your caravan comes under attack. The men suddenly cry out as axes are drawn, and a hail of arrows from both sides of the forest rain down as this ambush this trap has been sprung. As suddenly half of your fighting men go down under arrows. And you immediately see them slain. I mean, right away from a hail of arrows from both sides, as men lurch out of the wilderness and charge with clubs and axes. So everyone, go ahead and roll your initiative. Initiative is 1d10 plus your wits, dexterity, and celerity. All right, now we're gonna roll for your retainers because they're in on this.
Just as a note, Milo intends to tell Lorraine to stay, so I don't know if you want
Okay.
to need to roll for her.
So we got
Stay
Orlin.
here, woman.
Battlefield is no place for a lady. Come on.
Finally, we've got Varg and Kettlewick. Kettlewick's involved, whether he wants to be or not. So, poor Kettlewick.
Oh, poor Kettlewick.
But he is
Kettle
a ghoul.
needs to hide under the carriage.
I was so happy when I learned that he was actually a retainer and not just a random NPC. That was so awesome.
All right, and we've got the fearsome Varg. This is a hell of a fight. We got a lot of damn people in this fight. Wow.
Yeah. And body count really matters, even if we are badass.
Yeah. All right, so
Before we start, I just want
Okay.
clarification. How does fortitude affect taking damage?
fortitude dots passively add to all of your soaks. However, you can spend a blood point to make all of those soaks automatic successes for the rest of the combat round. So every time you're hit, you'll automatically soak all of your fortitude dots and levels of damage.
How do I do that?
You just
That's
declare
what I'm
that
gonna
you're
want to do.
yeah. You just declare that you're activating fortitude,
Okay.
and you spend a blood point, and then for the rest of the round, every time you're hit, you'll automatically soak at least whatever levels of damage you have in dots of fortitude.
That point has been spent.
Okay, so we'll subtract 1 blood from Nikolai. And remember, guys, if you want a blood buff, if you want to heal, use your macros. It'll send notes to me, and so I can keep track of everyone's blood. But as we begin, we see you. Since you're watching in that direction, Nikolai, you're the only one to spot it. You see a dark figure of a man-shaped dark figure, very high up in one of the trees to the west. He's camouflaged. He has thick veils of dense brush wrapped around him, almost like a protective cloak. And you see the ignition of some kind of flame or fire, which is lighting up in the trees. As we go now to Henrik.
Henrik is going to take stock of the situation around him. How many men do I have left? Fighting men.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to roll the fighting men you guys have left. So I would say you have probably three
Oh
good
my
ones
God.
left. So I'll roll that real quick.
And of course, while he's doing that, I'm gonna use blood heal, and heal 2 of my wounds with 2 blood points, right? For 1 each.
You've taken 3 levels of lethal.
Right, but I'm not gonna use all 3. I'm just gonna heal,
Okay.
so I'm not taking any negative modifiers.
Okay, so you raise to bruised for 2 blood points.
Okay, yeah. So
And,
I'm
and you don't.
healing.
Yeah, just be sure to use the macros so nobody can
Yeah,
reverse
that's-
engineer your generation.
Yeah, I did that, right?
Yep. Okay. So go ahead.
All right.
And remember, sorry, if you're ahead in the initiative, you can ask about what everyone is doing, before you make.
That's
your
what I'm
move.
gonna do. So, what is how many men am I looking at? How many can I get a gist of the opposition here?
Looking around, the men that have surged from the trees, there are 4 of them, and there's also a 5th one that you notice, but he's pale. His eyes are fierce. He's clearly a Cainite. and the others they seem to be mortal. Two of them are actually charging your side, and you are flanked by two men that have rushed to your side to help you.
Okay. So when I see the K Knight, is he mounted or is he on foot?
He's on foot, and he has his fingers are claws.
Okay. I surge forward upon my war horse and force my way to him. And as I ride past, I try to take his head off with my sword.
All right, as you spur your horse forward in a charge, you're going to strike at the neck?
Yes.
All right, so normally that is a difficulty 8 attack. But since you're mounted, you have the advantage of height, so it'll be difficulty 7. So dexterity, any celerity.
And I will be using a willpower point for a auto success. Okay. Dex plus melee, right?
Plus celerity, if you have it.
I don't. Oh yeah, and I have
difficulty 7.
So that's. All right,
but be sure to take into account the penalties for your armor.
2 successes plus my willpower point.
Okay, so that's 3 successes. So the damage will be your sword, which is a strength plus 3, plus 2 for the 2 additional successes, plus 2 for the neck. So 7 is your damage. Right, plus any potence. If you have potence, add that to it. That is 7 successes to his 5, including his, or to his 4, including his fortitude. You get 3 levels of lethal to his neck. That's enough to decapitate him. So this is what happens as Wolfar, this vampire, charges out of the woods. He bares his fangs and runs at you. But as you charge on your horse, you raise your sword. Go ahead and describe what happens as you go in for the kill.
As this brute leaps out of the forest, daring to challenge a true vampire lord, I surge forth on my mighty steed, and I raise my sword high, and I cleave down upon his neck, watching his head fly from his shoulders, with a satisfying thud upon the ground. And then, of course, I ride a little further, then spin around upon my horse to take in my next target.
So the minute you sever his head, I mean, his head goes flying. You see his fangs and his eyes bright and wild as his body suddenly collapses on the ground and turns into ash, as his bones are the only thing left behind, as one of Mitru's men charges from the forest and clashes with your man. He's going to try and make his attack.
I get to get mine, though?
Oh, that's right. You're using your clarity of mind out of turn. Okay, yeah, because you can do that. Go ahead and describe what you're going to do, Soren.
As he's looking out the carriage, he can see the attackers just charging at them from all sides. He quickly settles his back up against the back of the carriage as he begins to maneuver his fingers in these almost sorcery-like patterns as he begins to chant. I need to use my readiness roll.
All right, you spend a blood point. Go ahead and make the activation roll for readiness. That'll be your willpower, difficulty 4. Okay, so you're spending... How many blood points are you spending on the focus mind?
I'm spending 3.
Okay, got it. So you got perfect clarity going?
Yes, and dual thought.
All right, so you still have to roll the activation roll for each one. So roll the activation for perfect clarity first. That'll be difficulty 8. Okay, you managed to focus your mind in a perfect Zen-like moment. Go ahead, describe that.
As he begins to maneuver his fingers, his eyes begin to glow this mystically light blue aura as small trails of smoke begin to trail off of the ends of his eyes. And he continues to chant as his fingers start whipping around in these almost runic type formations.
All right, activate readiness. Willpower difficulty 2 now. So that is 5 successes. You can either you can split that however you want to add to your initiative, or you can add to a special dice pool for another action.
But I can't do both?
No, you can do both. Yeah, you can divide it however you want.
All right, I'm gonna add 2 to my initiative rating
All right.
so that I can act, and now I act before the man charging Henrik.
Yep.
And as he begins to channel, he's going to be using Storm.
All right. Real quick, activate Dual Thought. That'll be difficulty 5. All right, so it's activated. What's your first action?
His first action is he's going to be using his thaumaturgical power over the weather to control a storm to stop any incoming arrows.
All right.
And as he sits in the carriage, he begins to make these runes, and they start flying out of his hands almost in like this light before they disappear. And as he conjures it, he utters loudly within the room of the carriage, "Conjuro tempestate hastus incantante."
Immediately, the weather reacts to Soren's conjurations, and almost instantly, you find yourself in the heart of a powerful storm as wind begins to blow and thunder cracks in the distance, and immediately the environment has changed.
So a mighty wind has risen.
Wind, rain, thunder in the distance. Yeah.
And as he does so, the door of his carriage is gonna almost burst open as it opens, and it slams onto the other side, almost ripping it off of its hinges because of the winds. He steps out, and he's gonna look at both the Mitrus Man 3 and Mitrus Man 5. And he's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the dudes wielding axes.
Yes, and they are currently charging Henrik atop his horse.
He's going to be invoking his movement of the mind, and he's going to rip the axes from their hands and actually turn them against themselves.
All right, so you're using movement of the mind. Spend 2 more blood points and make the roll to grab the weapons out of their hands. Oh yeah, that's 3 successes. You immediately are able to seize both of their weapons. What happens?
As they're charging with their axes raised, Soren, with his glowing blue eyes and his cloak flapping in the wind as he emerges from the carriage, looks over to see the men charging at Henrik on top of his horse. He looks at them and extends a hand, and then just with a quick motion of upwards, the axes fly up into the wind and then come straight back down on top of their heads.
All right, so that is 3 automatic successes to their heads. Their axes do strength plus 3 damage. Your strength is your movement of the mind path. So it's 8 lethal to both of their heads. Go ahead and roll that.
6 lethal.
That's the first one, so roll one more time. Okay, so you kill the first one, but the other manages to soak the wound. Go ahead and describe it.
As the axe comes down, it splits one of the man's head in 2 pieces, straight down to his neck as his body slowly slumps to the floor, slightly being blown by the wind that he's conjured. As the second, it comes down onto his head and splits pretty far into the back of his cranium before the wound slowly starts to close.
And you realize in that moment, these are ghouls. But the first one is dead. He slumps over, he falls to the ground. These axes are levitating, by the way, that Soren is controlling, and he's immediately, he turns them on them. The man that was struck in the head, he suddenly cries out and charges to try and pull Henrik off of his horse. So Henrik, make a dexterity ride check.
And what's the difficulty?
6 contested roll against his pull. Yeah, you're thrown off balance by your armor. He runs up and he grabs you and pulls you, and suddenly you find yourself tumbling to the ground from a high fall.
Okay.
Go ahead and make your roll soak against 1 bashing.
All right, 2 successes.
All right, yeah. So you managed to soak it as you hit the ground. Go ahead and describe that as you're pulled off your horse.
Well, obviously, now that there is a mighty storm brewing and things of that nature, I kind of fall unceremoniously off my horse and into the muddy ground. I immediately, of course, tried to spring to my feet as quickly as possible. And of course, hopefully I still have my sword gripped in hand.
You do. You didn't lose control of your sword, but you are now prone on your back.
Okay.
Fortunately, Jurgen's men that are loyal to you, they surge forward to your rescue, and their axes flash down as they begin to try and hack this man apart that pulled you off your horse.
Excellent, excellent. Well, once I have the opportunity, of course, I will climb to my feet.
All right, so he takes one lethal as one of the axes sink in, and he takes another lethal. So he takes two more strikes to the left and to the right. They come in and they bury their axes and howl and push against him, and he loses his grip off of you, Henrik, as one of the men on the other side of the caravan, he rushes forward, and you notice that he has a jar in his hand. And Nikolai, you see this just in time. What is your initiative modifier, Nikolai?
That's my dex.
Dex plus celerity plus wits.
6.
Okay, so he will act before you. Varg, however, has an initiative modifier of 8. So Varg, he will act first. Varg is clearly looking to you for instruction. The wolf is growling and snarling at your side, Ebba. What would you like to tell him to do?
Who's the closest nearby us at the moment?
The men that are coming out of the forest, rushing towards the side where Nikolai is. There's 2 of them.
And she sees this, right? Ebba would see this?
Yep.
I mean, as this is all going on, I mean, it's total chaos at this point. There's a storm brewing, there's axes flying, there's arrows, there's people being killed. Ebba, instinctually, her fangs extend, and she looks like a feral creature as she kind of hisses and howls over towards what's going on. And immediately when she sees the men racing over to Nikolai, correct?
Correct. The man rushing towards Nikolai, he's holding a pot in his hand. You're not sure what it is.
She would look to Varg, knowing that he would probably get to Nikolai before she could. And she, in his animal tongue, she speaks to him in his in wolf. She would basically yell at him to and sick him upon this man.
All right, and Varg immediately he snarls and charges forward, and there's a momentary howl that he lets loose as he charges forward, a white blur as he streaks forward to the man and lunges at him, snarling. Let's see what he can do. He bites him. So he's gonna roll soak. Okay, so he goes down. I mean, Varg savages him. He goes down underneath him. His arm is almost completely torn off. I mean, Varg, he turns around to try and face the wolf and raises his forearm. Varg clamps his teeth down into the man's arm, and with an almighty rip, his arm completely tears free from his shoulder, and a fountain of blood spurts out across Varg's white, wet fur as the rain pounds down. And he begins howling, and he actually drops the jar, which crashes into the ground as he is now seriously injured. But nonetheless, with his remaining arm, he tries to pull an axe from his belt and swing at Varg, and he gets a direct hit. Varg is mortally wounded. Immediately, the wolf howls in agony as that axe buries right between his eyes. With an almighty roar, the ghoul that was nearly murdered, he buries the axe into Varg's head, and immediately the wolf goes down, collapsing to the ground. You saw this, Ebba. What do you do?
I mean, as soon as she sees that axe land into Varg's forehead, right between his eyes, do I need to roll not to frenzy right now because she's
roll self-control difficulty 9. Yeah, that was a 1 in a million shot. I mean, that was a lucky hit. Yeah, no, you botch. You completely lose control seeing your wolf go down. What happens, Ebba? Go ahead and describe that before you lose yourself to the beast.
I mean, as she sees this, oh wow, something just inside of her breaks. She doesn't have much humanity, but I mean, that wolf was the only thing that she cared about in this world, and now he's dead. So, as anyone can imagine, something inside of her just cries out in total and utter sorrow, and she screams. Actually, it's like this unbelievably horrible scream that just echoes through this storm that's just brewing around them before she loses herself to her primal beast.
All right, we go now to Nikolai.
Okay. Well, who's closest, I guess?
The ghoul that just brought down Varg. He's currently missing an arm.
Yeah, that'd be a dumb idea to go after him right now. Who's next?
There's one more man surging out of the woods near you. That's Mitru's man 4.
Okay.
He's also holding a pot.
Okay. So I'm going to do basically the same charging maneuver that Henrik did. And gallop towards him. Yeah, I'll go ahead and spend a willpower and basically do the same kind of maneuver, trying to decapitate him.
All right. That is difficulty 7, dexterity melee. That is a hit because you did spend willpower. So 1 success, roll your strength plus the damage of your sword, which is 3, plus 2 for damage. All right, so he's going to roll soak. Yeah, no, you cut his head off. Go ahead and describe that.
Seeing what has just happened to Varg, and knowing how close Ebba is to the wolf, I know better than to get in between those two. Seeing the other guy come out of the woods, I charge straight for him, and mumbling under my breath, "Forgive me, Father," I reach back with my sword behind my head and just swing. The head stays with the body for a moment as it continues running and stumbles forward, pitching to the ground as the head rolls forward.
Yeah, and the minute your sword hits his neck, it shears through bone. There's an eruption of blood, and an arterial spray as you free his head from his neck. And so with that, Milo, is your turn. You are within the carriage, and you've seen this violence break out all around you. The laborers are screaming, and there's shouts and cries of pain.
And it's all around, right? It's on both sides of the carriage.
Oh yeah, on both sides.
All right. Well, he would get out on the side that he was closest to in the carriage. He's gonna activate his celerity, and he is gonna use some blood to increase dex and strength.
Okay.
And before he leaves, he's gonna look quickly to the two ladies and say, "Stay here. Stay here. Don't open up for anyone but me." And then he quickly turns.
All right, go ahead and spend that blood.
All right, and as he exits the carriage, he is gonna look to. The first thing is he's gonna try and orient himself to the scene. What does he see as he exits the?
So the second you step out of the carriage, you see 2 more men running out of the woods towards you. They have axes and one has an axe, one has a club in his hand.
All right, I will charge straight towards them, trying to strike them down before they get me, intercept them.
Okay, do you have a weapon in your hand?
Yes, I have my sword. Well, I will draw my sword. I didn't have it in my hand, but yes, I will draw.
All right, as you draw your sword and charge them, this is Mitru's man 6 and 2. Which one do you want to attack?
Let's attack number. None of them has taken any damage, right?
No, they're fresh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna just go for number 2 then.
All right. So go ahead and make that attack. That's gonna be dexterity melee, difficulty 6.
Yeah. Just one quick question. How does multiple actions? How do I do multiple actions? So I'm gonna spend the blood to avoid the penalty.
You'll get your celerity. You'll get your celerity action at the end of the round.
Oh yes, that's the end of the round. All right. All right. So I rolled my attack on the.
Yep. Dexterity melee. Holy shit, is that accurate?
rolls.
Let me check your sheet real quick.
I'm not wearing armor.
Yeah, fucking A, that's accurate. All right. That's a high pool. Okay. Yeah, you hit him. Roll your strength +3 +1 for your additional success and damage. All right, so you score 2 lethal as you get a good stab or slash on him, whatever you'd like. Go ahead and describe it.
As Milo approaches the two men, he kind of makes ready. He was trying to make his swing to decapitate one of them and basically make the motion carry him into an attack on the next guy. But seeing as this didn't fell the first one, he is gonna he's gonna square off with these two, making sure that they can advance on anyone else.
Just at this moment, Ebba comes streaking out of the darkness. Ebba, you've completely lost yourself to the beast. So let me see. We're gonna spend some blood. All right, so this is what we see. Ebba she streaks out of the woods, eyes wide, her fingers extending into claws. And at that moment, she runs up to, she makes a direct beeline out of the trees towards the ghoul that had felled Varg, and she plunges her hand with almighty strength. As blood augments her arms, she plunges her clawed hands through his chest, and her claws explode out of the back of his chest. She jumped up in the air so that she could reach his chest. She leaps up into the air, slams her arm through his chest. Her arm explodes out of the back, and he is instantly killed as her strength is so great. And she lands on the ground and actually pulls her arm out of his chest. The last thing he can even murmur is a weak gasp as he's completely slain, clearly in the grip of the beast. Orlin, he rides to try and help Henrik. He immediately turns on his horse to charge, where Henrik is dealing with this attacker that's being attacked by 2 of Jurgen's men. And Orlin, from horseback, he swings his sword at the man that had grabbed Jurgen, and he hits him. All right, he's gonna roll his soak. Yeah, no, Orlin finishes him off. Actually, he rides up and already wounded. Orlin suddenly shoves his sword through the man's back, and Orlin's eyes are wide, and this is his first real. I mean, this is really his first real battle. As he just collapses completely and is slain. And Kettlewick screams, and he runs to hide underneath the nearest wagon, soaking wet. And Miklos, he grabs a hammer from the back carriage, and he charges one of Mitru's men that are coming out of the darkness, and he tries to swing that hammer at him. And he scores a direct hit. The hammer comes down, and Miklos, he grunts, and he slams the hammer into the man's chest. But this is a big, burly, bearded ghoul, and he grunts and growls, and suddenly Miklos is entangled with Mitru's man. As we move back towards the front of the caravan, another that has come out of the darkness that is currently entangled with Milo suddenly runs forward to try and strike at Milo. Do you wish to dodge this, Milo? Because you do have celerity actions.
Yes.
Okay, roll your dexterity athletics. -1 dice, because this is your second action for the turn. Yeah, so dexterity, athletics, celerity, -1 dice. All right, well, he still manages to get one on you. He comes out and hits you for 1 success and does 4 lethal. Roll your soak. It's going to be stamina plus fortitude if you have it. So you're hit for 2 lethal. He slams this axe into your arm, and your whole body's jerked back with an explosion of vitae. Go ahead and describe Milo as he takes this hit.
Milo was, as I mentioned, Milo was trying to finish off the first man with 1 hit, letting his motion carry him into an attack on the second one. But failing this attack, his motion got broken, and he didn't have time enough to fully retract from the second man's act. But he kind of swings away with the blow, giving out a grunt and giving the man an evil look.
Jurgen's remaining man charges the attacker that you hit, Milo, and comes to your aid with a massive hit. Yeah, 4 successes. Yeah, he instantly slays him. Jurgen's man comes out of nowhere and he takes this axe two-handed. He's actually thrown his shield down. He takes this axe two-handed and buries it in the back of the man's spine. And he suddenly groans and collapses completely as he's slain. And finally, one of the last men to come out of the woods charges Ebba, and he tries to... he has a pot in his hand, and he runs past Ebba, his eyes wide with fear as she lifts up the man that she just basically rammed her hand through his chest, and he throws the pot on the front wagon.
Sorry, wasn't Mitro's man number 2 the guy I just hit and did 2 damage to? Wasn't that number 2 and number 6 I was fighting? Sorry.
Oh, it was. So this is the man you're
yeah.
fighting. I'm sorry, I've lost track of. God, there's like 8 of them.
No worries. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is the guy you're fighting. He is going to... Yeah, he's going to swing on you. All right, he hits you. Do you want to dodge this? You have another celerity action.
Yes. No, actually, no. I wouldn't dodge it, no.
Okay. All right, that's 6 lethal. Go ahead and roll your soak.
Damn.
All right, so you take 2 more lethal from a massive blow. What are you currently at, Milo, on your health chart?
I would have to take, this is 2 from last plus 2 now, so 4 lethal.
Okay, so you drop to wounded. All right, so you're -2. So you get your celerity actions now. You have 2 more celerity actions. So go ahead, Milo.
I didn't use one on dodging.
You did. You did use one on dodging, but you have 2 more actions because of your celerity.
Oh, okay. I thought I only had 1 left. Alright. Well, with the last attack, he's gonna strike out at the man that just hit him. Obviously very infuriated that both that he has been hit, but also that he has that he seems that this normal guard, that he will take notice of his face to thank him later, but that he has kind of upstaged him, so he is looking to cleave this man in half, basically. So how many dice is that? Sorry, there was -2 for being...
-2 for being wounded, and -2 for your third action. So, -4. Alright, so that's a hit. Roll your strength +3 +1.
So 1 success.
Yeah, he soaks it. He soaks it completely. As you're moving like a blur. Okay, so what are you gonna do for your last action, for your last celerity action?
He's gonna try and cut this man down again, even though he's getting angrier and angrier, and it's clearly not working. It's clearly affecting him in a very poor way. But he is very, very mad and angry, and he has no love for highwaymen or people like this in the first place. So he's with all his fury, still gonna attack this guy again, swinging for his neck this time, simply because he is so mad.
Okay, so for the neck, that's difficulty 8 to attack, and you are now at -5 dice. Holy shit! Roll that 10 again. Wow. Okay, so 5 plus your strength plus 3 plus 2 more for the neck.
So 10 plus strength.
Yep. Roll all of those 10s again.
All of them, or only 4? There was 1.
Oh, all of them. It's damage. Ones don't take away. It doesn't really matter. I mean, his head's gone. Go ahead and describe it.
As Milo finally seems to find his balance and feel his sword right in his hand, he's still moving with immense speed around this man. He simply swirls around himself one last time and decapitates this guy, continuing, starting to move already towards the next closest man he can see that might pose a danger.
All right, Mitru has celerity actions, so this is what happens. Suddenly, a flaming arrow streaks from the trees in Soren's direction.
Would that be possible in this storm?
It's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, about as difficult as it gets.
Yeah, he's going to have a real hard time. But he is he's a vampire.
Well, I'm glad he did it because he just marked his position with that flaming arrow.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
So this is at the end of the round and not during the next round?
Yeah, this is at the end of the round because he activated celerity.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's going to be difficulty 9. Still, I mean, if it hits, nope, it misses. The flaming arrow streaks past you, and it streaks right by your head, Soren, because it was clearly aiming for your chest. And the arrow buries into the mud and extinguishes with a hiss as smoke rises from it. What does Soren do in response to the shot? I mean, that could have been bad.
As soon as he sees the arrow, he's going to quickly kind of duck down for a moment and jump down. He's going to try and run behind the carriage to get some cover.
Okay, just as you're about to turn to run, suddenly a dark form streaks out of the trees as you see Mitru the hunter has suddenly made his appearance. He has leaped from cover, and he's moving faster than you can even imagine. I mean, he's a tall, lanky man with a shroud around his face. He's a blur as he suddenly surges from the trees and is going to tackle you.
This is his other celerity action?
Yep, he's got more celerity actions.
Oh. Is it within the realm of possibility call for him to make a dex roll to stay standing?
No. He's leaping from the trees. He's going to be at a +1 difficulty because of the wind. All right, roll your strength brawl. He slams into you and immediately overpowers you, and if had you been a man, you would have been knocked unconscious by the force that he hit you as he jumped from like 2 stories high and hits you directly, Mitru, or Soren, and suddenly Mitru's on top of you, his eyes glaring down at you, and he says in Hungarian, "Filthy Tremere, Napaka will be free," as he pulls a dagger from his cloak, and you see the steel glinting just before, I mean, his arm whips down an attack on you. Faster than you can even follow.
He gets another celerity? Fuck.
Yep. All right, roll your soak. Do well.
Shit. I don't think it matters.
Uh-oh.
It always matters.
You can roll 10s. You never know. All right, so
Ugh.
he torpors you. I mean,
Oh, Soren.
he plunges the knife into your chest, and and this is what you see, Soren, is he carves you open. He rips open the cavity of your body like he's gutting a kill. I mean, blood explodes from your mouth. What happens is Soren is basically killed by Mitru as you're brought into torpor.
Holy shit.
When he brings it down and the knife plunges into his chest, blood just explodes from his mouth, and his fingers are up and clenching and kind of raking his nails down Mitru's arm as he's kind of digging the dagger into his chest. And as his vision slowly starts to fade, so does the white blue light and smoke that's coming from his eyes. It starts to dim, and the wisps trail away, and his eyes close, and he falls unconscious.
As Mitru torpors Soren, suddenly we're at a new combat round now. He rises and he turns to look at Henrik, the knife spinning in his hand, and he calls out, "You killed my child!" as he throws the dagger at Henrik.
And is it my turn, or is that dagger still flying at my face?
That dagger's flying at your face. You can't react. He's beat you.
Well, it's going to be really high difficulty, so at least it's not.
8 difficulty, but yeah, it didn't matter.
Holy shit.
It's nice knowing you guys.
Is that what you just rolled, or 1 success? Okay.
No, it's 5 + 1, so 6. Yeah. Okay, so you can roll your full soak on this if you want, because he was just throwing at your chest. Oh, doesn't matter. You soaked it. This knife buries into your chest. It's a blow that would have instantly killed a lesser man. I mean, you feel the accuracy despite the wind, despite the blade just slams and penetrates your armor. It's sticking out of your chest, but your flesh actually closes around it.
I swipe away the dagger with utter contempt as I look up at him. My eyes have now just like this hardcore predatory stare. Is it my turn?
Yep, it's your turn now.
All right. Well, I myself activate celerity.
All right.
And that gives me, matter of fact, I activate Celerity, which is 1 blood point. But I also use my other 2.
Okay, if you're gonna spend blood, don't announce it. Just use the
I
macros.
apologize.
All right, cool.
And I rush towards him in a blur, not as blurry as he was running, but a blur nonetheless. And I immediately try to grapple him because I'm going to bury my fangs into his neck.
All right, as you collide with Mitru and you surge forward, roll your strength brawl to try and overpower him.
And because of what I just witnessed, I will be using a willpower point.
All right.
And it's going to be difficulty 6, right?
Difficulty, yes, 6.
6 successes. That's going to be 7.
Again.
Okay. All right. So basically,
You immediately overpower him. Go ahead and describe it.
yes, I basically just overpower him, and I just sink my fangs right into his neck.
Well, you need another action to do that, but you've grabbed him
Yeah.
and you've thrown him to the ground.
Right. And can I go ahead and try to fight him?
You will be able to, because you have a celerity action, you can use it at the end of the round. But Soren is in torpor. And actually there, guys, as Henrik, and this is what we see with the violence all around, with the rain and the storm, and Soren is carved open on the ground. We see Henrik and Mitru clashing as Henrik is wrestled him to the ground, his fangs bared, Mitru glaring up at him, his fangs bared. We see Ebba in the throes of full frenzy. I mean, her great might unleashed as she completely murdered the man that had dropped Varg. We see Nikolai and Milo cutting off heads, and just general chaos. And with that, suddenly everything goes black as we end the session on a cliffhanger. Wow, Daniel, I am really sorry.
That is such bullshit, man. Every fucking game we make, somebody murders me with a goddamn knife.
This happened in our other vampire game too. He got like tortured by a ghoul with a knife.
Oh my god.
Yeah, some fucking douchebag held me down. The guy got a lucky ass stab on me with a goddamn knife. And that happened again.
I mean, he rolled massive successes on that stab. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I'd have worked
Difficulty
him
8,
over.
that was like crazy.
I'd have worked
That was
him
pretty
over
brutal.
for the next round, dude.
Yeah. I mean, Mitru's a badass. I mean, he's really tough. So don't feel bad about being dropped by that guy, but still, you didn't meet final death, so that's good.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
yes, man, I was gonna. Oh my god, we were gonna torture him and question him. It's gonna be awesome.
Well, you know why you were targeted, though, right? You know why he targeted you. Like, you know why. You know.
Yeah, after seeing what you just did, I feel like priorities. You're the most threatening of all of us. Like there's a storm around us because of you.
Oh man, I just got started. I was ready to do work.
Yeah. I mean,
There's no way to bring him back.
oh no,
In the middle of the fight. I don't.
he's just in torpor. Yeah, he can come
Okay.
back.
Okay, so you're not like gone with the wind. You're just in torpor. Like,
Let's see what you
what's your what's your humanity? It's like, how long are you going to be in torpor?
Well, don't answer that.
okay.
But
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
but for a little while, not
Oh,
long. I
okay.
mean, you can do things to speed along his revival too. If you have any potent blood among you, you can feed him that, and that'll speed along his awakening. And Ebba has some pretty potent blood if she wants to offer hers.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not really in the capacity to do that right now. But yeah, maybe.
Oh, Ebba, she has like 10 strength right now, and her claws are out, and she's frenzying.
That's why you didn't even
Yeah.
roll to fucking just kill that guy.
No, I didn't have to roll. All she had to do was push her hand through his chest, and that was it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about everybody right now because of me Yeah. Like, I'm real worried.
I think I can run faster than you.
Yeah, let's hope.
I mean, that's the only thing my only chance at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope.
That was a hell of a battle, man. That was cinematic. Like, wow. You just, I mean, Henrik's not playing around. He just fucking cut Wolfar's head off, like, right in the first.
Yeah, that was
I know.
That was awesome.
I didn't even get an opportunity to figure out who that was until his profile popped up, and I'm like, oh, okay, so he was important, and he's dead now.
Right.
Who is he? Like, I'm reading it, he's already dead.
Yeah, the only reason Michael showed us his portrait is, hey, this is the head you see flying.
Yeah, that's literally what it was.
damn, man.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That was a good opening shot for your side, because Wolfar, I mean, he's pretty dangerous too. I mean, he's Mitru's child, so he was going to do some work.
Hopefully, Henrik will be able to maintain this grip and finish this quickly, because I have a feeling that we're in trouble if this guy escapes Henrik's grasp right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Milo is compared to all of this, so I'm not sure if I can make it there. But yeah, I kind of hope I can get there to do something and help out before he gets.
Yeah.
his
And here's another thing you guys should really thank thank your Tremere for. Those pots, and I can tell you this because you saw one shatter. They were filled with pitch, and the men were running towards
something like that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
damn.
the men were running towards the wagons with them. And
Yeah.
Mitru had like a lit arrow that he was getting ready to shoot.
Yeah.
I know, and it was towards that first carriage, and that's where the women are. That would have been awful.
Oh yeah. Might have
But
had two people in frenzy then, if that is
Right, but because there's like rain pounding down now, any chance of like lighting
That
those?
was very good timing on that.
Yeah.
Very
I
good
didn't even know the Tremere could do this. To be honest, it's super awesome, really. And cinematic as
He's-
well. Just I really love it.
You're a wizard, Soren.
So, speaking
You're a
of the
wizard, Harry.
storm, with the Tremere out of commission in Torpor, is the storm going to remain? Or is it
It'll-
going to
it'll-
dissipate?
It'll remain until it runs its course. Yeah, because Soren wasn't controlling the storm. He just unleashed it. He just created.
He just
it.
summoned it.
Shit.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I mean, I'm gonna.
And it also really fucked Mitru because those high winds mean all his arrows are at +2 difficulty. So,
Yeah.
Path of Weather Control is awesome.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
arrow
really,
and
really awesome.
thrown weapons are +2 difficulty.
And it's just
Yeah.
so cinematic as well. I love that about it as well.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, if we have to wait, I mean, if we have to like kind of sit on our heels for a bit to allow him to come out of torpor, I'm totally supportive of that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, why it's like, now of course if we're talking years, then of course what we might have to go a different direction, but we're talking like a month or two, shit. Keep a low profile.
Since
Yeah.
none of us knows, I mean, it could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
a day or a.
Daniel.
Yes, I mean, we
Daniel,
would
you get to
otherwise,
sit in
and just-
torpor for a few months.
All right, so I'll see you guys like next year, right?
I know. You'll see us in like 3 sessions. No, I'm just kidding.
Like I said, with Potent Blood, you can speed along his revival, and luckily Ebba, she's very potent. So
Yeah, I mean, I am the grandchild of, what's that guy's name?
Odin.
Odin, yeah, that dude. So,
That fury is currently unleashed. So I mean, yeah, Mitru's scary and badass, but he's got a scary badass little gangrel that is going to be coming for him. So
yeah, but the thing I'm worried about is when you're in frenzy, you're not thinking about who the bad guys are. You're just thinking, okay, who's near me? Who's near me
Yeah,
who I
we
can kill?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Is there a possibility we can have maybe a general like kind of battle map kind of set up so we can kind of see positioning and all that kind of stuff? Would that help?
yeah, no, I don't get into that.
Okay.
We're not. I think that if you just keep it to description, like you're describing it in a book, and yeah,
Mhm.
sometimes you lose track. Like earlier, I lost track of Mitru's men, but they're all pretty much dead. Actually. But other than that, I mean, it's Mitru against all of you minus minus Soren. So odds that battle's pretty much, well, it's not over yet, but
I mean, we won, sort of.
He should have won the overall battle, but yeah, he can probably still do some damage, so it shouldn't take it lightly until he's in torpor or.
Well, Henrik is obviously going to, drain as much blood off of him as he possibly can. Not killing him, because obviously, Henrik isn't in frenzy, so he's thinking on a logical level, and logically he knows that they need answers. So he's basically just kind of try to siphon off as much blood as possible and capture him that way, and then we can decide. But that's Henrik's plan. Of course, he might, other factors.
Not a bad plan.
Diablerie won't have any problems.
No, I in real, he wants to avoid that, because once you go down that path, it's a dangerous path to.
Well, I ain't got no problems with it.
Look at Tremere over there, like
you're in torpor.
Fucking been there, done that.
Yeah, I'm really glad we didn't lose Soren though. That was scary for a second. Like,
oh yeah,
that was so
horrible. It would have been horrible to lose someone this early already. I mean, Soren seems like a really cool character as well. So yeah, that would be.
I mean, he leaped out of those trees and like hit you directly, and then stabbed you.
I just wanted to turn around and just fucking grab him out of the air. Ugh.
He'd also just seen his child be killed, so it's mad.
Did you see my comment, Daniel, in the chat? I said Soren's just sitting there like, what brawl? What strength brawl? What do you want me to roll?
Mitru's shots out of the tree. He has like obviously several levels of celerity, and his ambush, like that was dangerous. Like he could have torpered you. But luckily, you did come through it, and
yeah. There you go.
That was some really good soaks.
Really good soaks, yeah. They saved you. Can't say that for Soren. Soren's soak isn't quite as good, but no, it's okay.
At least he got to do some good damage before he went to nap time. So
oh man, you don't want Soren to go. Soren will fuck your shit up.
Right. No, Soren.
I only needed the one turn.
Yeah, if it was Soren's turn, he could just use like movement of the mind and levitate that guy up into the air. Yeah,
I'd have just caught. My plan was to catch him in the air when he jumped at me, catch him in the air, and then control the water around him to form a prison.
Yeah,
that was my idea.
Soren can do that. He's got lots of tricks in his his grab bag. But that's why he's Mitru the Hunter. He knows who the biggest threat is.
Yeah.
He's got 4 celerity actions. The shithead.
He actually only had 3, but he did take he took his action, his like regular action, and then he used 1 action to shoot the fire arrow, 1 celerity action to shoot the fire arrow, and then actually let me check the numbers on that. Sorry guys, let me check it real quick, make sure it was all fair.
I'm pretty sure everything was done correctly.
11 on the archery. Okay. I don't know. We might have to retcon that, because that's not fair. He's using more dice than he should have had. Because I didn't take into account each successive multiple action, and I didn't subtract it from him. I also didn't subtract the difficulty for that tackle or the jump. Like that tackle was taken at difficulty 6. When the winds are blowing, it should be at least at 8. We may have to retcon some stuff next week and do some rolls again.
That's fine. We didn't finish the battle, so it kind of
Yeah. We can retcon it. You might not be in torpor, Soren, because his tackle was at difficulty 6, and he's using 8 dice, which is more dice than he had. So it was not only with more dice, but at a lower difficulty. So I think that's worth a retcon.
Here's a suggestion. Okay, so he plunges the dagger into Soren's chest. Hendrik, and before he could like unzip him, Hendrik comes up behind him and basically lifts him up and body slams him to the ground.
Well, we need to see whether he even tackles him successfully, because Mitru, you know, like I said, I'm talking about his when he jumped out of the tree to tackle at him, he used way more dice than he should have had, and it was at a lower difficulty. And Soren only lost by like 3 successes on that. And honestly, Soren should have used a lower difficulty because remember you had like perfect clarity, right, Daniel? So your resistance roll should have only been at 4 difficulty instead of 6.
Wow, yeah, okay. That's a lot of discrepancy, actually. Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's worthy of a retcon. We're gonna have to make those rolls again, see what happens.
Do my extra, because the whole time I was holding on to my.
Yeah, he had extra dice. He had bonus dice.
My 3 extra dice. I spent 2 to increase my.
Well, you rolled 5, and then you spent 2, and you had 3 extra dice.
Yeah,
so
I was holding on to it.
Yeah, you could have thrown him off with 3 bonus dice at a difficulty 4. I just don't think it occurred to us in the moment. But yeah, we're going to retcon that. We're going to make that roll again. So Soren's not in torpor. We're going to see what happens.
Okay, we could do it really quick.
I mean, we could do it like right now. Okay.
I mean, just while we have it fresh in our heads. You know?
Okay, yeah, why not? We'll just make the roll right now. We'll see what happens. Go ahead and make your roll. You can use all your additional dice if you want. It'll be difficulty 4.
This is the Dex Brawl one, right?
Strength Brawl. Yeah, so he's gonna. Mitru actually has 6 dice, difficulty 8 because of the wind. Yeah, see, that's not nearly as good. No.
Come on, guy. All right.
So 3 successes. You just need.
3 successes. Yes.
Yep, that's it. Ties go to the defender.
Yeah, Ty goes.
So yeah, Soren threw him off.
Oh my god!
Yay! You're not in torpor.
Oh my god! All right, I get my fucking. Oh.
So he's like.
I get my fucking. Oh, he's dead. Ooh.
All right, but Hendrik still body slammed him, right?
Maybe not. Because Soren's initiative was 16, and he's back in this fight now, and he's going to get a turn. So he's going to get to act before you do.
Well, how about this? Because I rolled really good, you know, I don't want to like lose my.
I'm sorry, man. The retcon kind of overrides everything that happened after that. Yeah.
Well, I'm taking back my blood points and stuff, man. How about that?
Yeah. No, you get your blood points.
I think I used a willpower point on that as well.
Yeah, you did. You get your willpower back. Right. So,
if I remember correctly, Mitru's stabbing and torporing of Soren was all celerity action.
It was celerity actions, yeah.
So now we're going to start over at Mitru.
He has 1 celerity action left. Yeah.
Okay.
And then he has 1 action at the top of the round.
Okay.
But Soren threw him off on that tackle.
Right.
Okay,
but
so
it's
we'll
still
come back to so he's on the ground right now, and that's basically where we're going to pick off next time. Soren has just thrown Mitru off, and Mitru is about to do his last celerity action for this turn.
Yep, and that's where we'll start next week.
Okay, awesome. That sounds really good to me.
All right, cool, guys. Good news, Daniel.
Hey!
Yeah,